Abbasid dynasty in the hands of Salami. On the other side, it is Beastyqt with the English, and we're ready to go with game number 1 straight away. Spawning on the left side, it will be Abbasid dynasty in the hands of Salami in red. Right side, it is going to be Beastyqt with the English in yellow.
I don't know. A lot of people were saying, "Oh, you watch out for Denny Q's Marlins. It's coming." Well, no Marlins spam just yet. English definitely feels a bit cheesy. Something that you can do, it looks like that's going to be exactly what BC wants to do, is the Dark Age Men Arms play. Now, this is interesting, Lidakor, because a lot of players are expecting to see less of this play, considering how much shorter the Dark Age phase of the game can be.
And look at that. Beastie isn't messing around. He's just going to conscript the villagers, pulling them in, and that's the big difference here in the Dark Ages. English villagers with their short bows, they're coming in, getting a pick right away. And Salami, he's probably not expecting this to happen straight away.
He's doing it. I'm so glad of this. I've been begging for this. I've watched Lidakor. I've watched so many 12 villager starts, and yet I have yet to see a single player do this English villager pull. But he chose the right map. Pit, you're actually located quite close to each other in a very predictable spawn location. Compared to something like Dry Arabia, Lipany, these maps more stretched out, harder to traverse. And the cool follow-up play that an English player can do, as you're seeing there, immediately you just drop a mining camp, and that gold belong to me now, right? Everything that was yours now becomes ours.
That's a devastating hit on Salami's eco, not just because of the gold, he's got enough for feudal age. The concern is that he lost the berries, the #1 source of food income for the Abbasids. And if Beastie ever doubles down on this with a tower nearby, it's going to be so troublesome for Salami to access food. He barely has a couple of sheep carcasses under his town center. He's going to squeeze out feudal age, but this is not a great start for him by any means.
Honestly, like, Salami is very fortunate that he didn't get one of those spawns where his gold and his wood are on the same side, because sometimes you get that. If that had happened, his game looks pretty blocked out. And the reason he needs wood is because once he gets his tech up, he needs to go into an archery range, 150 wood. He needs to get an archer, which is going to cost him an additional 50 wood. And then on top of that, he needs to build a ram, which is going to be 250 wood, because I'm not sure if BC wants to commit to it, but the follow-up play typically for an English player in this position is to drop an outpost.
Yeah, for the time being, Beast is going to shift 4 villagers to wood, but he's going to prioritize feudal age, and I would think he's going to prioritize longbows over here, because especially given how exposed those gold miners are in the middle, this could be a prime spot for Beast to hit Salami again. Now, where is Beast's scout at? He's scouting the northern side, so he's yet to find those gold miners, but if he ever does, those longbows will shut down that gold mining operation in a second.
Now, hear me out. You're in the situation, you're Salami, you should have been trade wing instead. You had a free route. No, don't do it. I'm still getting flashbacks to the Marine Little B game. It didn't work out too well for him. I mean, that's kind of another element that can make this a cool play for Beastie, is just in case he's up against an Abbasid trader, like, he would park himself potentially in a position to stop that. So everything about this feels really good. It really does put Salami in the clock to get rid of this. You can't just sit here and be like, I'll let him exist, because he's still getting value out of his eco units, and you're on a very finite amount of trees before you're in a situation where Beastie can just kill you.
Yeah. Now, the concern for Beastie is that as powerful as this position is right now, he needs to be cautious about this. If he gets overrun by, as you said, a battering ram and a couple of archers, he's going to lose 5 villagers here on the front. So he needs to know when to bail on this. For the time being, he's fine being here, but he needs to be cautious. He can't really afford to lose those 5 forward wills.
And I like that Beastie didn't build too many of the baby arms, right? Like his little Dark Age Men arms, I call them baby arms. Love that name for him. He only built 1. And he's kind of been a pseudo scout. They really do feel like babies, by the way. Like, I just want to highlight how clumsy the little men-at-arms look when they run, when they're Dark Age units. It's almost adorable. Oh, hello. So Beastie, wow. So he's not even going to try to play pocket ecos, despite the fact he's got deer to the north side. He's just going to transition probably into a farm setup, which, you know, a lot of English players at the moment, by the way, have stopped doing that. They actually try to play deer and go for fast castle timings.
Yeah, I'm not against that, to be honest. You don't want to expend towards those hunts, given the fact that Salami saw your council hall. He knows you're coming in with longbows, so it is inevitable that you see horsemen from the Abbasids here, so you probably don't want to stretch yourself too thin here with the English. So I'm not against that farm play, especially with that mill being there. He's also going to grab wheelbarrow.
It just still feels bad if you're Salami in the situation, right? The outposts have been committed, so, you know, in some ways you're like, it's worth the ram investment. But whoa, hold on a sec. It's not enough that you took his nuggets? Now you're going to take his berries too. Wow.
That's lovely, actually. It's a lovely move, because it's not just the fact that you put those villagers to good use on the front, it's also the fact that you're depleting the safe resources of your opponent. So it's going to be much less left for Salami once he gets that position back.
Yeah, it's a good thing that Abbasid villagers don't need much food to sustain. Oh, wait, no one gets fresh foodstuffs anymore unless they're doing multi-TCs, which means that Salami is going to have a little tear in his eye, all the berries he's going to be missing out on. And that ram is not being built very quickly, folks. Pretty sure it's just one archer that is building that up.
Yeah, Beastie's even committing to an arrow slot emplacement on that tower. And the thing that's lovely for him is that that tower gives him vision on that ram. He knows fully well the timing that Salami is aiming for. He knows very well when that ram is going to arrive.
I like this play by Salami, though. Try and intercept. He understands the only way that Beastie can hold here is if there's more troops coming. So what do? You find those reinforcements and you poke them in the eye with the sticks. Problem is, Beastie's already building his own sticks to poke back with. Spearmen are on the way.
Tower's still alive. Here comes the battering ram, but this is where this could get a little scary for Beastie. Not much to defend those villagers with, and you don't want to lose the forward bills.
Burn it down. Burn it down. If he actually times this right, he can burn it down before the outpost will be lost, but it's so tough here. It looks like it's going to be a little bit too late. Longbows and spearmen are on the way. The problem is the spearmen probably can't hang around. This many archers should be able to counter him out. Is that Salami with enough targets the villagers? I feel like if he just immediately target the spearmen, he'd still be chasing right now.
Exactly, this was a bit of a missed micro there. He didn't focus down the spearman. In fact, one of the volleys hit the men-at-arms, probably just a misclick from Salami. But this means that Beastie gets away with all the villagers, and his position couldn't be better than this. He managed to slow down Salami quite a bit, and Salami couldn't punish him for that. For Salami, for this to work, he really needed those villagers killed. Beastie gets away with all of them.
This is cowardly players, I'm just going to call it right now. Beastie, I know the type of man you are. You come back with those villagers. You build another outpost. You don't leave. He actually could have as well. Just look at the military pop gap. Obviously, he can't see what we can see, but he has a dominant lead in terms of raw force to commit to these fights.
Yep, longbow's around, and he could actually torch down the battering ram because Salami doesn't have anything nearby to defend this with, so guess there goes the battering ram on the other side. Looks like Salami is going to move on to stone, but this was scouted by Beastie. Beastie knows fully well that Salami wants a second town center.
Yeah, but he put up the Great Wall of the Abbasids, very historical, famous wall, you may recall. It was this tiny wooden wall in the middle of a desert. But it did hold back the English, mainly because we never want to go there. But it's just going to mean that he can't get around. Like, even now, as he runs around here, imagine a world in which Beastie still had the villages. He'd chop a tree and make his way through this. Instead, he has to go and range the TC and possibly lose a few troops. Alternatively, he has to idle himself, burning this down, which should buy enough time for Salami to get close to, if not the full amount of stone required.
Yes, Salami should have no trouble getting to the second TC. The bigger question is how Beastie is going to approach this, though, because Salami is still boxed in inside his base. If he plays second town center, he's not going to have a massive army to work with. So Beastie could flirt with the idea of a fast castle and just going for the King's Palace.
I don't think it's going to be too fast, though, right? Because he went farms instead of deer. He's got 2 farm clusters set up. Once he has a third, he'll naturally move towards that castle age timing. But we're still about 3, maybe 4 minutes away from that being a reality. And Beastie, if he hemorrhages too many troops here, might feel threatened enough to double down. In fact, he is double downing with a northern assault onto the stone line before Salami has what he needs. Hopefully, he has enough between those villages. But no, that looks a little bit shortchanged of what we require, sir. Your payment has been declined.
Oh, that's a little sad. In fact, it's very sad Beast is going to hang around, and the alarming detail for Salami is that he also lost his scout, so his vision is very limited here. Beastie still has his own, so the information advantage is definitely on the side of Beastie. Finally a cleanup on the right side for Salami, rather, but still...
Even the wolves!
Yeah.
There's 2 wolves in there! Bruh, you annoyed the whole pack. Beastie walked into the home and he was not welcome. And that is not a good exchange for him, because remember, those longbows cost more than the archers he's exchanging with on the other side. Not to mention men-at-arms cost the same as horsemen. So a good exchange for Salami. Meanwhile, Beastie didn't really get enough pressure consistently on that stone outcropping to stop a second TC from being on the way. I'm pretty sure Salami should be able to sneak out one more time and get what he needs to go for a 2 TC.
Yep, indeed. There's the second town center coming up. Very compact base positioning, but for the time being, this is fine for Salami because he's going to get his berries back, and as good as Beastie's position was to threaten that stone, now it's pretty underwhelming because the only resource that he's denying is the hunt, but Salami is more than satisfied with that.
Yeah, but Salami, he needs to make sure he keeps posturing military, right? Because now you've got this bigger burden, because I don't think he's got fresh food stuffs yet, if I'm not mistaken. The discount isn't as big as it was, and you're still going to be threatened by Lombos. So if you don't have as many archers as there are Lombos with a few horsemen as well, Beastie will just come in and slap you for it, at which point you'll have access to zero food.
Yep, Salami actually made a new scout. That's a lovely little detail for him. He needs that piece of info. He needs to keep track of Beastie's army. It's a slow-moving army we're talking about. It's longbows, spearmen, so it's not like you will be surprised from one side. If that one scout can keep track of that big ball of spearmen and longbows, Salami will always know where to expect the attack from.
Yeah, I like how he won't be surprised from and he was surprised by that double pinch of salt, but it did cost Beastie, so you aren't wrong in that regard. To kind of catch his opponent off guard means he's not going in with his full force. English players typically, they are like the anime embodiment of one punch at this phase in the game. They don't like the idea of splitting their troops up. They just want to come in with one foul strike and deck you, right? Mass lombos, mass spears, and just push. It's the kind of full divide feeling, which is weird for the English. As historically, every time we feel like a fight is not going our way, we don't have to double down. We just retreat to an island where no one can touch us.
That's a lovely position, though. Hiding the longbows in the stealth forest, also dropping the tower there. Salami has no idea about that happening. You can see his line of sight being so little. And once that tower goes up, there is going to be the attack buff for the English. In fact, Beastie is so confident he's going to dive over here, getting a couple of villager picks.
Not well as many as you'd like. Upgrade-wise, he has got the increased damage. Enough spears here to threaten, and the amount of lombos, this should put Salami on the defensive. In fact, he's going to throw away his entire army. The villagers are still gathering, quick, quick! I don't care if you've got berries or meat slabs. We cannibals as well. We'll take any food we can get here, because we're not getting any more now.
Oh, Salami is just so low on army. He needs way more archers. He's got a couple of horsemen, but with 16 spearmen being on the field for Beastie, those horsemen won't do much.
So Beastie's only really missing a ram play now. I don't think he's got siege engineering yet, but once that's in... Okay, there we go. He has already researched it. This is problematic for Salami. Torch damage he can handle due to the fire armor buff you get from the Golden Ages. Rams, however, don't get buffered away by that, right? There's no negation of damage. Instead, this very weak TC that you only recently built is probably going to be going down in the next minute.
And Salami is kind of caught in between. He's got a pretty decent bank of food and gold. Makes me feel like he was probably flirting with Castle Age, but then this push comes in, and right now he's got a big resource bank, and it's not like he has the production to spend it on. And more importantly, he lost the blacksmith, so he doesn't have the upgrades either. There is much better blacksmith upgrades available for Beastie, and as you said, this is the expansion town center. It's much easier to destroy than the starting one, and that's going to be the primary target for Beastie.
And Salami's about to become Sadlami because BC knows what he's doing on the north side. He moved out into the deer, but BT scouted that out. So after they're done in this area, there'll be a natural kind of flow around. At the moment, Salami buys a little bit of time, but more rams are on the way, so it doesn't get easier from here on out. And Salami, another issue he has is he kind of lacks the space to easily just surge into a vast count of horsemen.
Just a couple of horsemen being sent around, maybe trying to intercept reinforcements, but if you don't have tools to stop this direct assault, it's gonna be game over. Might actually yoink one of the rams, though. Nice little push out there with the horsemen.
It's so difficult at this point. The attack speed buff for this many lombos, like a horseman dies. They don't counter lombos, right? You haven't got heroic units from like the Romance of the Three Kingdoms. None of these guys are Lubu. They can't deflect a million arrows. Instead, he's gonna have to forfeit the area. Several villagers likely to die on the retreat. And remember, these rams, they breach those walls quickly. He can move into the archery ranges as well. He can take out all the production that's giving Salami a potential world in which he can exist.
It gets worse than that. They're right next to the House of Wisdom, and it's not like Salami has the tools to destroy those rams with right now. So at this pace, Beastie could start committing for the landmarks and just say, okay, let's finish this game in 2 minutes, while also going up to Castle Age. So we're going to see some men-at-arms appearing, maybe some lancers even, and the window for Salami is shrinking very rapidly.
You know it's a bad sign when your opponent is willing to ram your House of Wisdom. Then it feels like a House of Dumb or Done in this situation, because GG gets called and Beastie, with the ultra aggression in the 12 villager start, comes out ahead and is already on match point.
Was a little bit of an unlucky map generation for Salami, let's be honest. Gold and the berries being right next to each other really played into the hands of Beastie's aggression there, but that being said, Beastie exploited that detail really well, and then by the time Salami cleaned that up, there was a response from Beastie. And as you said, the other thing, the two-pinged assault or two-pronged assault, the ability to slow down the build-up of that second town center by shutting down the stone for about a minute, that slows down Salami so much that it just allowed Beastie to escalate his forces all the way up to 60, and then from that point on, it was just a raw numbers game.